Good morning, everyone. So, welcome to our daily news analysis. As always, we are referring to the Hindu newspapers, Delhi edition. So, in today's newspaper, actually, there were these two important concepts. So, one was of investment-led growth. UPSC had asked the question in 2021. So, there was an opinion section which talks about gross capital formation, and it gives the overall trend of the economy. So, I would recommend you to focus on that. And I will also share the articles on my Telegram channel. So that is one thing. And the other topic that was of importance was an explainer article, which was talking about the fiberization of the telecom sector. So, this new term, fiberization, and the challenges in the release of the 5G in the telecom sector. So this was important. Okay. Just in case if you haven't subscribed to my Telegram channel, so you can do that. And this is the link. So IASPrimers is the name of the channel. It's always there in the description box. And yes, I can't fail to notice the ad. So we also have very affordable courses on ethics. We have a course on essay actually, right? So course on essay is there and it is live on a website. You can enroll on that and you get one-to-one dedicated mentorship session for each copy, and that is a very affordable rate. We have posted it. Okay, now coming on to the front page. So yesterday, President Kovind, right, new president is coming in. So President Kovind was giving his farewell speech. In fact, I don't know, it was also there on the YouTube also. So yesterday I was prompted onto this video. Okay, and in this he also talked about his tenure and he talked about the environment related challenges. So he talked about the need to focus on environment and he referred to Gandhiji's talisman. Then with Delhi reporting the incidents of monkeypox, so there is a high alert. Right, so there is a high alert on this and we need to know basic details about the monkeypox disease. So we know that the monkeypox disease is caused by a virus. So UPSC has a tendency like this disease is caused by a virus, fungi, protozoa, bacteria. So like that it asks, right? So virus and virus of the smallpox family. This is not really a fatal disease. Fatal means somebody dying, but incidents of fatality has taken place. And typically the symptom is development of rashes. Now we have the health ministry has become active on this issue. And earlier it was only in Kerala, but now Delhi also it has been reported. Plus this person, the new person who has been identified with monkeypox virus has no history of foreign travel. Okay. Now, typically, what the government would do is they will have to track, and this we did earlier also, so track the people and isolate them. So isolate, observation, treatment, so this cycle keeps going on. Now, in this article, we find the government is mobilizing its already existing agencies like the National AIDS Control Program to create awareness about the preventive measures for this. Furthermore, additional health facilities that are there in the country, so them to look out for patients. So basically track patients who have the symptoms of these unexplained rashes. And WHO has also issued a warning to strengthen surveillance and public health measures for monkeypox. So this is specifically for Southeast Asia. Okay. So left one was a political news, we're ignoring that. Andhra Pradesh on alert as water rises in Godavari. So this article is basically about flood management. Actually, it's about the disasters caused by the flood. So we get to know what steps that the authority is taking to deal with the flood issue. Now we have always been talking about this Godavari. Flooding is taking place because of the rains, and now there is no respite. It is only increasing. Right, so this is only increasing. So this is a cause of concern over here. Now there is a mention that the Central Water Commission So it is an agency of the government which deals with the issue of coordination and regulation of the water at the central level, right? So it basically coordinates with the states, because water is a state subject and water is naturally physically also in the states only. Center is coordinating on that, Central Water Commission. So it's observing this. Further, again, there is a reference of this temple town, Bhadra Chalam. So here again, the water has increased to 41 feet. And existing authorities of the government are being utilized: Revenue Department, Irrigation Department, Medical, Health and Fisheries, and also the Integrated Tribal Development Agency, where the Andhra region. Okay, now this thing drew my attention, and obviously the Central Water Commission. So this is not a statutory body as such, it is basically an attached office in the Ministry of Jal Shakti. And the chairperson of this Central Water Commission is actually the ex officio secretary under the union government. Now coming to this Integrated Tribal Development Agency, the reason that it drew my attention was that the issue of tribal is important. So, what is the government doing for the marginalized or the vulnerable sections? So these are important. This thing cannot be asked in the pre also, like initiatives for tribals. So respectively, individually, pre-wise MCQ questions can be asked. Besides, for mains, what is the government doing for the tribals? In fact, questions are being repeatedly asked for the tribals in one way or the other. Be it on the form of tribal arts, tribal culture, issues faced by the tribal population, the issue of declining sex ratio amongst the tribals, right? And then we have always been talking about the Forest Rights Act, so that comes under environment. So these are some 3-4 main topics on which the tribal based question can come. And yes, tribal economy also, and how to promote the tribal based economy, tribal based art and culture into the mainstream society. Okay, now here we have the Integrated Tribal Development Agency. So this is a registered body of the Societies Act. So it is not a statutory body or anything, it's simply a society basically. And the main job is to ensure or enhance decision making in respect of scheduled tribes and scheduled caste. So what is it saying? Decentralization and flexibility in decision making. That means that the tribals should make decisions for themselves rather than others making decisions for the tribals. So that is decentralization and flexibility. Flexibility means each tribal community can decide for themselves what they want. So there has to be a flexibility, because each community may say that they want different things. But if a top-down approach is there, let's say the state government is telling that the tribals should do certain things, so it will apply to everything, everybody, every single community. So there will be uniformity. So that will be lack of flexibility. Okay. So, I was, what should I say? It's not coming right now. There was this, people also searched for. So there was this Integrated Tribal Development Program. So here I found this. So this is the program on Integrated Tribal Development Projects. So it is under the tribal sub-plan. And it is being implemented since the fifth five-year plan. What is the objective of this program on Integrated Tribal Development Project? It is to reduce poverty, improve educational status, and eliminate exploitation of tribal families. So basically tribal welfare, tribal development, tribal welfare. It is part of what? Tribal sub-plan. And what is tribal sub-plan? Basically the government estimates plans, right? The government makes plans, makes budgetary allocations. So in proportion of, let's say there are tribal population in a particular area. So whatever the government is spending, so in proportion to whatever scheme is there, for example, let's say for policing, let's say for water management, irrigation. So of that, how much portion is benefiting the tribal population? So let's say if 30% tribal population is there. So 30% of that the scheme should be so designed that the 30% of the resources should be used for the welfare of the tribals. So like tribal subplan, there is also a scheme known as tribal subplan, scheduled caste subplan, SC/ST subplan. Okay, so this we are done with. This we also have. Okay, wind power rates have bottomed out. I missed reading this article, but we'll do it later. Okay, so wind power rates have come down. So this is a good news for renewable energy. And without reading, I can say that it must be because of the cost of these cells, these things, mills have come down. Yeah. Now for renewable energy, we have the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So, you can go and visit this website, the government website, and it will tell you about the list of things that the government is doing for promoting renewables. And remember, when we talk about renewables, the government is focusing on being carbon neutral by 2070. So all those commitments are there as part of the climate change promises, national development commitments, in turn, INDCs. So as part of that, question can also be expected. So per unit, solar power costs have fallen to 2.4 a unit. So it is talking about solar also. Okay. This is not really sometimes it is a good thing. It's a good thing for the consumer, but those people who have already invested in these plants, solar or the wind, if the cost of selling that electricity comes down, let's say somebody had created a new plant with an expectation that the price would be at rupees 10 per unit, but the price has come down to rupees 2.4 a unit. So the investment that was made by the investor, capital investment, that was made with the view that revenue will be this. So the quantum of investment was also higher. So, if the revenue that is coming here is less, then naturally, this is not good for the financial health of the company who has initiated this project. But yes, and maybe that would also result in poor supply of electricity. So end result, consumer may also get harmed because of that. But yes, in general, if one says cost of lower tariffs is beneficial to the end consumer. Now this concept is clear. Yeah. How the landfill has shattered hopes of Valsava's men to find brides. So this is about the issue of landfills, and we're talking about Delhi. Okay, so one thing is naturally, imagine if your house is close to a landfill site, mountains of landfill, and if you have ever been to Delhi, you will be greeted by a big mountain of a landfill. And my house, if I look towards this direction over here, I can see the Himalayas. And sometimes I feel that is also a landfill because I've been to Delhi frequently. But sometimes, it comes to my mind. Okay. Now imagine if your house is near the vicinity. So naturally, if somebody wants to marry their daughter, they will say that this is a filthy place. It's not a good place to live in. Plus, naturally, because of all the landfills over here, it is not good for the health also, all the pollution and all those things. Frequently, fires also emerge over here, landfill-based fires. And the waste, if that is burned, naturally it will be very, very toxic. Right? So the air over here will become toxic. The people will develop respiratory infections. And besides with the landfill, I hope you can see the small landfill over here. Okay. So besides the landfill, there is also something known as leachate. So let's say, there is this waste, pile of waste over here. So let's say rain takes place for any reason, water comes over here. So with the percolation of water, the toxins that are there, they penetrate into the ground. Sometimes they also become part of the groundwater. And ultimately this, most likely people to consume this would be the people in the vicinity. So landfill is not a good thing, right? Naturally, it's a bad thing, and we have to take steps to reduce the landfills. Now the problem arises that with the population increasing, more and more urbanization taking place, packaged foods and all that, landfills are bound to increase. So what mitigation measures should be taken? And this, believe me, this is the way UPSC can ask you a mains based question. Okay, so I was looking at this. So naturally, what is the government doing about this? So combating emission of toxic gases from landfills, right? So what is the government doing? We can see it from the PIB. So it also says that we created this new updated solid waste management rules 2016, revised after 16 years. So typically after 15-16 years, they are revised. Then inauguration of the decentralized waste management technology, right? So how do we manage that? Then besides, we can always talk about the participation of the private sector in the landfill listing. And these. So basically, I'm going to discuss this article, Swachh Bharat Mission Urban 2.0. This one, toxic gases one, and the decentralized one. Yeah. Okay, I just have the decentralized one. So first, let us do what all things are there for this thing. So decentralized waste management technology park. So, the idea is, what is a landfill? Landfill is waste is generated in different areas. It is in different areas, and then it is gathered from there and dumped into a common area. So that is a landfill. Now, what if waste is generated at different areas, and over there can be small units? There can be small units which is treating the waste. So naturally, the pile of waste that will eventually come will decrease. So that is the idea of decentralized waste management parks. So here we get a list of technologies that are available for that. So waste segregation unit, MRF and gasifier, plasma pyrolysis unit, wastewater treatment unit. So all these things are mentioned. So all of them has been explained. I can share with you it on the comment section as well. Right, so these are there. What are the advantages? I think if you just read this, it will be clear. Decentralized on-site waste processing, minimum land requirement. Right, so these points are there. I think you can read over here. And the park aims for zero waste, zero energy, and zero landfill. Right, something that you can quote in your answer writing also. Email, and please, this is interesting. Email contact waste to wealth investindia.org.in. So private sector who's interested in it, they can invest in these sectors, something like that. Okay, and government is also having this waste to wealth. So recycling, generating waste, or burning the waste and generating electricity. So waste to wealth, or for composting, for agriculture, organic waste being segregated and using for composting. I'm not closing this, otherwise I'll forget. Okay. Monkeypox, same statement now. Now this was again interesting. This is with reference to the cyber crimes that take place. So this is Delhi police. Respective state polices actually, they take their own initiatives as to how they deal with the issue of cyber crimes and use social media to, track and identify the problems that are there in the society, policing or problems that are there. So this is only the example of Delhi police. In Kerala, there is the Cyber Dome project. So Cyber Dome project was also asked in the mains 2019. Okay, so what is the Delhi police doing? It's common this thing that everybody is there on social media. Anything happens, they tag Delhi police. Or any fake news is coming. So let's say some problems have been posted by the citizens. So that is there. I think we are now aware of all this. Besides, let's say somebody has a safety concern or this molestation case, whatever, right? Something has taken up, so police can look into this. Or some issue of fake news. So the police being active on the social media and tracking it for, let's say, people who are tagging them. about some problem, some complaint. So rather than filing an FIR, people have a tendency of just mentioning that on the hashtag Delhi Police or @Delhi Police. So police gets to know about that incident. Now let's say a woman complains about harassment or woman complains about something. The woman can be contacted directly, and it has happened that woman has been contacted directly via a DM, and the Delhi police has sought information. So this effectively, and then there were also incidents of fake news. So fake news coming from the media, mainstream media also. Then the Delhi police coming under high alert while seeing all this and reporting the matter to its nodal officer. Right. So whichever officer is there at the concerned district, so that team is notified and they dispatch their police or they dispatch their team for whatever steps are to be taken, whatever relief measures are to be taken. So this is the typical cycle. So cyber team, they inform the nodal officer, whichever district that is there, and then the relief is mobilized. If it is for fake news, then that has to be verified. So that happens. So here it is given. We get an alert, we contact the nodal officer, and then the information is verified if it is for the fake news. Sometimes it is used for, some communal tensions are going on. For example, the Delhi Communal Rights Citizenship Amendment Act issue that took place. So to ensure peace and stability, peace and harmony, those messaging is done. So good thing actually, and can be taken up with the mains. You can also quote this also. You can use it in your essay writing. Essay also, all essay, anything can come, but also in the ethics GS4 paper. Okay, so political news. Okay, now coming on to this thing on the editorial and the opinion section. So weighing in on India's investment-led revival. Right, so this is the article, investment-led revival. And I said earlier, investment as the agent of economic growth, or how will it lead to inclusive growth? This was a question that was asked in the mains paper GS3 2021. So this question was asked. So this article over here provides almost a good amount of detail to us as to how the capital formation or capital formation is essentially fixed investments, right? So investments for, let's say, buying land, machinery, whatever, to GDP. So that is gross capital formation. So gross capital formation rate would mean how much investment increase is taking place. Okay, so it provides us information about that. So we can, when we have to talk about investment overall in the country, we can use this indicator. So I would suggest you take a screenshot. I'll share this article also on the Telegram, as I said before. Now see, understand this. If we want economic growth, right? If we want economic growth, let's say when we say 8% GDP growth, 6% GDP growth. So that means, in very simple terms, the production is increasing by 8%, 6%. That is what it means. Now the production will increase if there is more addition of capacity. So if the capacity of the production is increased, then only the production will increase. For example, a factory can create 100 cars. Right? So it has its limit of creating 100 cars only, no matter what we do. So until and unless a new factory is created, so that additional cars can be done, then only more production will take place. So for economic growth, for sustained economic growth, we need investments. So investments are needed. And when more capacity is added, we need more, naturally more jobs would also be created, because we will need more people to work with the added capacity. So that is the overall idea. Okay. So this is it. Okay. So this is their capital expenditure has to increase. Now this article says that it is saying that how government has been focusing on creation of investments, especially public sector. So government has been doing it, especially when there is a crisis that has come. So when the Asian financial crisis had taken place in 1997, so naturally when something wrong in Asia or anything happens in world economy, it will affect India also. So to spur up jobs and to get more money into the Indian economy at that time, the government started spending more on creation of infrastructure. So naturally, if the government spends more on infrastructure, it will create, let's say government sanctions more roads, government sanctions more ports. So this will ultimately, one, when the government is spending, the government will not directly make it, the government will give this money to, let's say, the private sector, Larsen and Toubro or some other company. So money goes into the private hands. Then let's say Larsen and Toubro would say that we want cement, we want this thing, that thing. So it will benefit the other sectors of economy also. Right. So that is the idea. So here what they did was that golden quadrilateral was taken up. And what is the golden quadrilateral project? It is the project to link metro cities using a high quality road network. Fine. So golden quadrilateral and Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Villages are not very well connected, so road connectivity, all-weather road connectivity to all unconnected habitats. So that was the idea. And that had resulted in sustained economic growth of 8 to 9% annually when the Asian financial crisis was taking place. Okay, so this is it. Now, in the Indian context, in the present times, we have data for 2019 and 2020, and we have data for 2015 and 16. So what it is saying is that the gross fixed capital formation, which is fixed investment to GDP ratio, right? So investment by GDP. So that has increased from 30.7% to 32.5%, right? It has increased. But what it is saying is that we should be mindful. We should be mindful of the increase in the data that it is saying, because much of it is basically on the technical grounds. For example, somebody buys a new asset. Somebody purchases a new already existing factory, let's say. Right, so brownfield investment takes place. So already a factory was there. So that factory is bought. Mahindra buys a factory from, let's say, Maruti. So realistically speaking, no additional capacity in the economy has been created. But in accountancy terms or in budgetary terms, investment has been done. Right, so this is the problem over here. Plus, if the center gives out loans to the states, so merely center is giving loans to the state, so that would also account for investment. Now, if the state is, just paying out salaries for the government employees or whatever, no creation of capital is taking place, but yet it will be counted as capital formation. Right. So technically speaking, the author has raised certain concern over here. Okay. Now over here, this gives us a breakup also. So it says that overall, let's say 32% gross capital formation is also there. So of this, bulk of it is coming from the public sector, and the rest is coming from the private sector. Right, so rest is coming from the private sector. So the share of the public expenditure is much, much more. And what it is not saying, but I'll tell you, is that public expenditure is creating the hard infrastructure and private is more of acquisitions and all those things. Right, so nature of infra that is being created is also very different. Okay, and we have seen ever since the 1991 economic reforms, the share of public health expenditure, public infrastructure, the share of public sector in gross capital formation has come down and private sector has increased, but the quality of private sector investment is not very good. Okay. Then we have sector-wise breakup. So we have the national accounts statistics. So their data has been taken up for gross capital formation, and this is sector-wise. So agriculture, we see a dip over here. It's industry, again, we see a dip from 38.1%. It has come down to 32.5%. Right. So for overall, we see a dip except for the services sector. So which is not a good sign actually. Okay. So it's not a good sign, but that can also be attributed to the pandemic. So if the investment, now let's say this article is now talking about the manufacturing sector. So the case of manufacturing is distressing. So our capital formation, our investments into the manufacturing is reducing. That means the capacity that we are generating is not at the same rate as we wish. It is at a lower rate. And that maybe explains the import dependence on China. So we are depending more on other countries, particularly China. And what is of concern is the critical materials. Our dependence on China is more. For example, for pharmaceutical, and you can quote the fact also. So, the powder, active pharmaceutical ingredients. So with the powder, crocin, paracetamol, all these medicines are made. So 80% is coming from China. Tomorrow we have a problem with China. They can say that we are not supplying you API. Our pharmaceutical industry goes down. So this is a problem. So even though our ease of doing business ranking has improved, the government has been focusing on promoting the manufacturing sector, and our ranking has improved overall in the ease of doing business rankings. But the investments that were to come to a country is not to the same amount. So the gross capital formation has fallen, which I just showed you also recently. Okay. So now recently the finance minister had said that the public investment is the pivot of the ongoing investment-led economic revival. I think something that even the UPSC mains question had asked. But overall, we find that the share of investments is actually coming down. So this has to be improved, right? So this has to be improved. So government has to focus on mobilizing money for capital formation for long-term sustainable growth. Otherwise, we will be stuck in this middle income trap. So this is there. I couldn't do much with this article actually today. So but yes, I can give you a brief update. So recently, the 12th ministerial conference of the WTO had taken place. So what is the World Trade Organization or the WTO? So simple terms, WTO is the rule-making body. What is it? Rule-making body for global trade. So naturally all countries are trading. So some set of rules, some set of arrangement should be there. If they have a dispute, some system of courts, tribunals should be there. So the WTO provides, and almost all countries have agreed to this. So time to time, there are these ministerial conferences. Naturally, India sends a representative minister, likewise other countries send their representatives. And they talk, and basically they talk about reforming the rules that have been created in the WTO. Now recently, naturally India would want more concessions from the developed countries, so recently India and other developing countries, they had thought that there should be a TRIPS waiver. What is TRIPS? So TRIPS is an agreement on, it's basically an agreement on intellectual property rights. So they wanted, easing of the patent laws or the TRIPS basically, so that the drugs associated with the pandemic, the COVID-19, can be made more affordable and accessible. So somebody has done research and created a drug or a medicine. Naturally, that person has exclusivity. That I have made investment in that drug, I have the patent, so I have that exclusivity, and they charge a premium. So when drugs come to India, they are very, very expensive. So India wanted, and India and many developing countries, that this should be waived off for the time. The patent requirement should be waived off. But on the contrary, what has happened is naturally the developed countries which are having most of these pharmaceutical companies and all those things, so they didn't like this. But global opinion was in favor of TRIPS waiver. But what happened, what did not happen, this doesn't explain, but what it says is that India and other countries had to give significant concessions on the issue of TRIPS. So rather than taking concessions from developed countries, India had to give out concessions. How this happened, it is not explaining. What happened, it is not explaining that also. So everything took place in the closed door setup. Okay, so this was happened. Besides this, India was not able to get concessions on other aspects also. For example, the issue of public stock holding. India is providing these schemes such as minimum support price. So it is providing a subsidy to the farmer. So these are known as trade distorting subsidy. So artificially, the prices of the farm produce is increased. Right, so this is there. And we have the government takes food grains from the farmers at the MSP and then it stocks the food, which is distributed at a lower price under the National Food Security Act, right? So ₹1 for, let's say, wheat, ₹2 for rice, so like that. So the food grains are sold at subsidized rates. So when the food grains are sold at subsidized rates, so the global players, let's say US, etc., they have a difficulty because their produce is not price competitive in the Indian markets. So they want this thing to go away. And India, on the other hand, wants to ensure that their right to provide subsidy to the farmers and subsidy to the poorer people is ensured. India being a developing country, right? So this issue is basically there. So here again, it says that India was not able to take benefits under this, nor it was able to take benefits under the TRIPS waiver, but it had to give concessions to the West, the G7 bloc. So that's all I have actually. Adding digital layers of indignity. This is about, I'm not doing this, it's about bringing in technology for implementation of NREGA. So some technical glitches are there because of which people are not made their payments or they are enrolled into the scheme. So we can do that later. It's a repeat article. It keeps coming. Yeah. The challenges of fiberization ahead of India's 5G deployment. So, recently, India is preparing for, in fact, it is there in the business section only, that India is preparing to auction auction of about 72 gigahertz of airwaves to roll out 5G. Okay, so 5G is high-speed internet, faster than the 4G, that is it. Okay. So for this, one is like typical technology is that imagine these two are towers. So tower to tower, data is moving, packets of data are moving. Now the idea is, since we need more capacity, more data to be transferred, so these towers, rather than sending these radio waves signals, they can transfer data wirelessly, right? So sorry, they can send data via a wire. So optical fiber, all that optical fiber internet is there. So these being connected via fibers. So that will have an advantage. Naturally, more capacity will be generated, more ability of the towers to share the internet packets of data. So that will increase. So that is the idea. So the process of connecting radio towers with each other via optical fiber cables is called as fiberization. So that is it. It will provide additional bandwidth and stronger backhaul support. What is backhaul? It is a component of the larger transport that is responsible for carrying data across the network. Right, so that is the thing. Fine, so this is a good thing. So what is the problem with this? Problem is that we need additional investments, right? We need to have at least 16 times more fiber to connect these towers over here. And for 5G rollout, we need at least to have the desirable standard of 5G, we need 75% of our towers should be fiberized. So that should take place. For that, 16 times more fiber is required, and 16 times also translates into more time, more money, more money, more investments, right? So about 2 lakh plus crore, 2.2 lakh crore of investments are required. Besides this, they say that more towers are also required. So additional investment of 2.5 lakh crore is required. So at present, only 33% of the towers are fiberized as compared to 65 to 70% of South Korea or 80 to 90% in the US. So this has to increase. Right, so this is the major problem over here. So this is talking about the investments. So which will be required in the next 4 years, 2.2 lakh crore for fiberization of 70% towers and 2.5 lakh for additional towers. So 15 lakh towers have to be created. Besides this, there are some rules. I really don't know how this works, but there is something known as right of way rules, which is some rules are there, which is to connect fibers across the place, right? So some set of rules are there. So there are some technical problems between the center and the states among themselves, and also states and local bodies. And because of that, the implementation is not taking place, right? So for laying down the fiber, there are something known as right of way rules. So this is a issue, and this has to be rationalized. So this was created in the Indian Telegraph right of way rules. Even the global network intelligence firm UCLA, the speed test that we do, highlighted the DOT's Gati Shakti Sanchar online portal as a way to simplify right of way rules. Right, so what is this Gati Shakti Sanchar? So for that, we need to know what is the Gati Shakti scheme. So Gati Shakti scheme is essentially a scheme to link all the investments that are taking place in investment related connectivity related infrastructure that has to be created. So for that, the Gati Shakti scheme is created. The idea is that various center states, so various departments of the government are brought on a same platform. So that is the Gati Shakti scheme or the Gati Shakti platform. So for all the investments on connectivity that are being done, so this is a platform where center, states, local bodies, etc. are together. So it is for coordination related activities. Right, so this has to be done. Besides, there is a suggestion that satellite communications, so satellites can be utilized, satellites in the low Earth orbit. So we already have the Elon Musk's Starlink, satellite constellation is there in the low Earth orbit. So that provides high-speed internet in the remotest of the corners. So like that, we can also consider that. So this space-based backhaul, right? So rather than towers connecting themselves, towers being connected to the internet. So space-based backhaul will also provide disaster relief services. So in areas which are difficult to access, where there is no internet, no connectivity, space-based connectivity can help. So besides Starlink, actually there is one more that is, what is that now? Amazon. Amazon is also having their initiative. Okay, so July 22 was celebrated as the National Mango Festival Day. Okay, Smriti sends notice to Congress leaders for some claim that her daughter has sought license to run a bar. Okay, apologize for remarks. Defamation suit is there. This is a result of the IT company Infosys. Their profit has increased, and they have said that they are going to have 50,000 freshers in this fiscal. Deal pipeline strong. Now, it's fine. So they are saying that their overall outlook of US and the European economy is pretty good. Now, why I'm doing this is that we are talking about difficulties in exports. We are talking about recessions in the world, and here we have about Infosys, but it reflects an outlook of the entire IT sector also, right? So here is this company which claims a good or positive outlook. So good for our IT exports. Right, so Draupadi Murmu to take oath as India's 15th president today. So tomorrow's front page will have her as the front page. 5G spectrum auction from tomorrow. Karwalas carrying water from the Ganga, right? So basic idea you should have. Ukraine set to resume grain exports. Then some update of the war. Some ports, some things that are there in the news, you should keep an eye on that. For example, Odisha port for your pre. Or Snake Island, so that is also there, right? So some international news over here. China launches second space station module. So what is this? So, we have the International Space Station. Now, China wants to have their own space station module. So something that is dedicated for their own country. So this is a great development from China. So what is it? So now to create a space station, naturally they cannot just completely launch the space station into the space. It's a big thing. So there will be dedicated modules. There are apparently 3 modules. So one is Tinhai module. Right, so this is the Tinhai module, which is the living quarters of people who are in Tianhe. So this is the living area. Okay, then there is the Ventian lab model. Naturally, for space, it's not space tourism. They are going for some research and development work. So next is this module has been released in the space. So this will be attached to the Tinhai model. So this is, and besides this, other space model will also be launched for research and development. That is the Meng Tian model. Right, so this will again be there in the news eventually. So these 3 things are basically there. Is to dock with Tinhai forming a T-shaped structure. Right, so this is there. So maybe it's like this, Tinhai like this, then Ventian and Mennington. So this is how the space structure should be. And this is being launched via their launch vehicle, which is known as Long March 5B Y3 rocket. So like we have the PSLV rocket or the GSLV rockets, they have the Long March 5B Y3 rocket. Then sports news. Right, so sports event you should keep an eye on. So World Athletics Championship is going on. So our hero has got silver medal over there. Right. French GP for Formula 1. So all these things are taking place. Right then, so this concludes our session. So thank you for streaming in to our channel IASPrimers with me, Shubhashish. Bye-bye, all the best.